welcome back to All Things Lord of the Rings with your host Alex, also known as Solanus Dracone. In our last episode, Beren met Luthien after a particularly grueling escape from Dorthonion, and the two fell in love with each other on the spot. The fatigue of the journey and the horrors of the war lifted from his heart when he was with her, and despite the fact that her love for him would cause her to someday die, her time with him was just as magical for her. However, another man, an elf who was just as interested in Luthien as Beren was, found out about it and told on them. His name was Daeron, and he was a minstrel. When Thingol found out about the two kids, he was absolutely livid. You'll remember he didn't want no stinking humans in his land to begin with, and this one had the audacity to capture the heart of his pride and joy, the apple of his eye, his sweet baby girl Luthien. He confronted his daughter, but she wouldn't say even one word to him about it until he swore that he would not harm Beren or try to imprison him. He agreed, but his loophole was to send some guards after Beren, with the intent to arrest him and bring him to Menegroth as a criminal. Luthien sidestepped this, however, and went and brought Beren her damn self, as if he were an honored guest. Obviously, that was not the tone that Thingol was hoping for, and Melian, well, she was silent. Thingol was all, "Who the hell are you coming into my lands like a thief and coming before my throne?" Now, Beren was a proud and brave man, but he was a little bit nervous about the situation. Here he was, standing before the might and majesty of one of the elven kings of old, in the seat of his power in a majestic, glorious castle, with the ire of said king squarely focused on him. So he was a bit too intimidated to answer. Luthien tried to answer for him, saying he was Beren, son of Barahir, one of the lords of men, enemy of Morgoth, and so on, but Daddy wasn't having it. "Let Beren speak," he said. "Why are you here, when you were forbidden to enter, leaving your own homeland? Why should I spare you my wrath?" Now, Beren was still a little blinkered, but he looked up and saw the eyes of Luthien and Melian, and suddenly his fear left him. He began to speak with the pride of the lords of men behind him, almost as if the words were being put into his mouth. "My fate led me here," he said, "through dangers that even elves would be afraid to face. I found something I wasn't looking for, but I will have it all the same. All the power of the elves and the terror of the Dark Lord, none of it will keep me from the treasure I have found. A treasure more beautiful than all the gold and jewels there are. I want your daughter Luthien, because she is the fairest of all of the children of the world." Naturally, everyone there thought that this was going to be the end of it. Surely there was no way that Thingol was going to be spoken to like that in his own home, so they all went silent, expecting Beren to be killed then and there. And oh boy did Thingol want to. He was like, "You have earned death with your words, and I would give it to you right this second, except I made a hasty promise which I now regret, you filthy little mortal who creeps around like Morgoth's spies." In return, Beren was like, "You can kill me whether I deserve it or not, but don't you call me filthy or little or compare me to the spies of Morgoth. Neither I nor my house have earned that kind of abuse, considering how my father earned Finrod's ring in the battles of the north, for saving his life." He then held that ring up for all to see, with all of its splendor wrought by the Noldor, the seal, this sigil of the House of Finarfin. At that moment, Melian leaned over to Thingol and whispered, "You will not be the one who kills this boy. I see his fate before him, and it takes him far and free, and it's closely woven with your own fate, so watch yourself." Now, Thingol knew well enough to listen to his wife, but he was still pretty pissed. He looked at Luthien and thought to himself, how can I let my daughter marry some mortal, children of little lords and brief kings? How would the universe let that happen? Finally he spoke up. "I see your ring, and yeah, you're proud and think yourself mighty. But even if you personally had rendered me some service instead of your father for some relative of mine, that still wouldn't earn you the hand of my daughter. You say you're not afraid of Morgoth? Good, because there's something I would like too. If you can go snag a Silmaril from Morgoth and bring it back to me, then you can marry my daughter if she'll have you." Oh, Thingol. He thought he was sending Beren on a suicide mission. Even without the extreme unlikelihood of Beren actually managing it, he still in that moment signed the doom of Doriath. As you should well know by now because I've been drilling it into you since episode 8, the entire misfortune of the Noldor hung around the fate of the Silmarils. The Doom of Mandos and the Oath of Fëanor, powerful forces of fate, suddenly got tied in with the fate of Doriath. And of course he thought it was a hilariously good idea. There's no possible way he thought that Beren could do this. The Silmarils had been set into a crown of iron which Morgoth wore atop his head, and were deep in the heart of Angband, behind Balrogs and orcs and shit. There was surely no way that this kid could manage it, especially if none of the Noldor could even lay eyes upon the gems. But Beren laughed in this. He was like, "That's a cheap price for an elven princess. Gems? Things made by hand? If this is your price, then I accept. Next time we meet, it'll be with a Silmaril in my hand. You will see the son of Barahir again." And then he took a quick look into Melian's eyes, and turned and walked out of Menegroth alone. Melian spoke to her husband finally, saying, "Well, it's a smart plan, but I still feel like you screwed up a bit. Either way, you lose. If Beren returns, he gets Luthien, and if he doesn't return, then Luthien's probably not going to speak to you ever again. And you just got us tied up in the fate of the wider world either way." Thingol replied, and I'm seriously confused as to what he meant here, so I'll give the verbatim. He said, "I sell not to elves or men, those whom I love and cherish above all treasure. If there were hope or fear that Beren should ever come back alive to Menegroth, he should not have looked again upon the light of heaven, though I had sworn it." I think he was trying to say he planned to renege on the deal, but I suppose this one's open to interpretation because nobody broke a promise in those days and was still respected afterward, especially elven kings. Anyways, after that, Luthien was silent, and didn't sing again in Doriath, and a brooding silence fell upon the woods, and the shadows in Doriath grew longer. And that's where we'll stop for now, folks. I want to thank everybody for watching. Once again, I am Alex, also known as Solanus Dracone, and this has been All Things Lord of the Rings. Goodbye.